In this video, I'll be going over how to create a LinkedIn profile. So first, I just want to say that there's already a lot of advice out there on this kind of stuff, and I want to explain why my perspective might be useful. And I think that's just because I've been through the process really recently. So I'm a senior in college. Over the past few years, I've applied to a ton of internships. Over the past few months, I've applied to a lot of full-time jobs, and I've been able to see what makes an application successful and when are they not so successful. So one last thing I think is worth mentioning before we get started is why it's important to have a LinkedIn. So I will say I was initially really opposed to the idea of making a LinkedIn when I first got started with all this stuff, just because I saw it as kind of like the same as my resume, like why do I need both? And I also saw LinkedIn as kind of just a platform to compare yourself to other people in a negative way, and it can feel like other people are bragging when they make posts. So generally, I don't like LinkedIn, but despite that, I have one because I think it's really important for when you're applying to jobs. Some employers will look you up, and you want a professional face to yourself when they do. And also, some recruiters reach out through LinkedIn. That's actually how I got one of my internships. So overall, I would say it's worth having, even if you don't like the platform as a whole. Okay, so once you create an account and log in, you'll be taken to a page like this. This is the main landing page. It's your home, it's your feed, it's where you'll see posts from other people. And then we have this navigation bar up top. You can view your network, which is just your friends basically. You can browse jobs. This one's pretty useful. And then what we're going to be focusing on today is editing your profile, which you can do under Me, View Profile. But before we do that, I recommend checking out the settings and privacy, because LinkedIn sets a lot of settings by default that you may not want. In particular, under visibility and profile viewing options, by default, when you view someone else's profile, it will notify them that you in particular viewed their profile. So that might not be something that you want. It's not something I want, and so I changed this to someone on LinkedIn. There's other things like this too. One thing that I care about is this share profile updates with your network. So by default, whenever you edit your profile, it sends a notification to all of your connections. I don't want that. Maybe I'm just making a small change. I don't want everyone to be notified that I've updated my profile. I want to control when other people are notified about me. So I'm going to turn this off. So once you have that set how you want, we can go back and go to the edit profile page and start creating a profile. So under Me, go to View Profile, and this is where you're going to edit everything about yourself. So the way you fill out a LinkedIn profile is with sections. So you can click on Add Section over here to see all the types of things you can add. So you don't have to add everything. Just a few important ones so that your profile looks nice. And some examples are a profile photo, a summary. Under background, you can add some work experience and some education. Basically, there's all sorts of things you can add. And what I'd recommend doing is looking at someone else's profile so that you can kind of see what they've done and what parts make it look good. So I've just gone over to the CEO of LinkedIn. His profile, you can bet it's pretty well filled out. So let's kind of look at this and see what aspects are important. So right away, kind of the first thing we see is this profile photo. It's nice to have a face to his name, and right under his name we have his headline, it's called. And so this is just a few words to say, what you're up to. Maybe you're working, and you can say whatever your job title is, or maybe you're a student, and you can just say student at wherever you are. So just a couple words. And so to add that, you can go to Add Section, Profile Photo, and it will prompt you to upload a photo. It doesn't have to be super professional. I think I use my Facebook profile photo for this. Just a nice photo of your, like a headshot like this. That's fine. And then to add this headline here, you can go ahead and click this edit button, and it's this headline here, and you can just say, like, I'm a student, so I might just say student at UC Berkeley, and go ahead and save that, and you can see it shows up right under your name. Okay, so next you'll want to add your education and experience, but let's start with education just because it's a little more straightforward, kind of more fill in the blank, whereas experience is more freeform. So to add education, just click Add Section, and under Background, click Education, and then you can just fill in the basic details. So I'm gonna put UC Berkeley, bachelor's, computer science, and then just some basic info, start and end date, and then you can add your GPA if you want, if you're proud of it. Go ahead. If not, that's fine. If you did any activities, you can share that. But again, you don't have to. But it might be nice to have like one or two things here. So like I played Ultimate, so I can add that. And then you can just leave this description blank unless there's anything else you want to share. But go ahead and click Save. And then once we refresh the page, it's going to show up under the About section, right? So we have our main profile photo and headline up here, and then scroll down, we see About, and then below that, we have our education. So that's that. This is all you need for education. Pretty straightforward info. So the last thing you'll want to add, which is also kind of the main thing, is experience. So if we take a look at this other person's profile, we can see that underneath their name and everything, they have About, and then right away, it's experience. And this is kind of the bulk of their profile. So important section to have, but it can also be the hardest section to do because it's very free form. If you have an experience, it can be hard to know what to write about. And also, what if you don't have any experience? Even if you don't think you have much experience, you can still find things to add to your LinkedIn. So ideally, if you've had a job before, that's great. That's experience that you can add. Maybe you've had a gig, not an official job, but you can still talk about that. Or maybe if you were in a club at school, or maybe you had a school project that you can talk about. Everyone's had that. So there are always things you can talk about. Maybe they're not like as high of quality as you would like them to be, but you have to start somewhere. So go ahead and start with what you have, and then as you gain experiences, you can kind of replace those things on your resume that weren't so solid with things that are better. But put down what you have. It's better to have something than nothing. So once you figure out what you're going to talk about, you need to figure out how you're going to phrase it, because regardless of the experience, depending on how you talk about it, you can make it seem either pretty impressive or pretty lame. So wording is important. So go ahead and click Add Section and Work Experience, and it'll prompt you for a bunch of information. So I'm going to go through an example of when I was on course staff for a class at my school. So it asks you for things like title and company name, but it might not always fit into these categories. So like I didn't have a title, so I can just say I was course staff. You can make up your own title. Company name, it wasn't a company, it was the school, so I can put UC Berkeley. Also, I wasn't paid, but it doesn't matter, it's still experience, I can add it. So it says employment type, I guess part-time, call it whatever you want. Location you can add if you want, and then you can add start and end date. So I started January 2019, I ended December 2019, and so I'm going to copy and paste. This is what I did. So I was a facilitator for a course. But regardless of what the actual experience was, I'd recommend kind of following these general guidelines when you're writing the description. So I highly recommend starting with action words, so like oversaw or held, Depending on what you did, you can look for action words. You can just Google a list of action words and pick your favorite. Normally, it's best to start with these, but I added this first sentence because it wasn't exactly clear what the role was. Like you can't tell from just course staff what the job was. So I kind of added a little clarification, but then start with an action word and explain what you did, and try to use numbers if you can. That helps quantify what you did, and it also helps show results. So I guess the three important things are: start with an action word, give numbers if you can, and talk about results if you can. Lastly, I want to say that possibly your biggest resource is all of the profiles that you can go look at. So, there's millions of people on LinkedIn. Go pick someone who you see as successful. Maybe, you're hoping to be in their shoes at some point, and see what they've written and how they've written it. And so you can pull all sorts of different ideas and kind of combine it into something that is unique to you, but also drawing on aspects that make up a good profile.